Hello there, thanks a lot for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and the Beatles from 1962 with Operation Big Beat 5. Now in part 1, this of course is video part 2. In part 1 I talked all about the poster itself, this poster, its provenance. I showed you the common bootleg of this, which, everybody has, it's everywhere, and showed you photos of the other Operation Big Beat posters and handbills involving the Beatles. Well, in part 2 here, this is all about the wording on the poster and what it means and the music behind it. And believe me, it's a ton of fun. These Liverpool original Beatle concert posters are just the bomb, to use a current expression. So at the very top up there, you do have Leach Entertainment's present Operation Big Beat 5th. Little bit odd wording, right? You'd think just straight Big Beat 5 would be a little bit easier. Now, that Sam Leach, of course, I told you did write a book called Birth of the Beatles. And he reveals in that book that he loved to run his functions with military-like precision. And that's how he got the name Operation Big Beat for some of his dances, including the ones with the Beatles. Then on there you've got, of course, at the Tower Ballroom in New Brighton. And that was a seaside resort sort of adjacent to Liverpool. And it was a favorite venue of the Beatles. They played there a lot in 1961, 62, and 63. In fact, the first time they played there, it was the night after they first met Brian Epstein, their future manager. The last time the Beatles played the Tower Ballroom, they had the #1 single and album in the country. So boy, how's that as a testament to that venue. Friday, 14th of September from 7:30 to 1 a.m. Obviously that comes to 5.5 hours, quite a shindig. Featuring an all-star 6-group lineup, starring the North's top rock combo, appearing at 10:30 prompt. Yeah, boy, you talk about military-like precision. You will go on at 10:30. Oh boy. And then I'm, reading out the poster, of course, the North's top rock combo, referring to northern part of England, of course, Liverpool, Manchester, and Leeds, as opposed to London down south. Then you've got the Beatles. Man, they're finishing their first month with Ringo on the drummer's chair, but this had to be surely one of the worst weeks of Ringo's entire career. My goodness. Just 72 weeks earlier, the Beatles had recorded the final released versions of their first Parlophone single, Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You. And if you know your Beatles history, you know that Ringo wasn't drumming on either one. He had been replaced on drums by Andy White. And so that famous nose, I'm sure, was quite bent this week. Giving you a quick top-to-bottom scan here of this beauty. Obviously, time and so forth worn away a lot of the letters, but again, the owner choosing to keep it completely intact and entirely 1962 molecules, as I often like to say. Take a look at that paperware in the corner. It's just so authentic, so genuine. People always say to me, how can you tell an original? How can you tell, there's just such a feel for the really old stuff. Again, concentrating there on the paper in the corners. Same with the lower right-hand corner. Pirates, sometimes they try artificial aging, and it can fool some people and fool anybody, really. But once you've seen the real thing up close like this, you can just feel it, from the early 60s, just on a fence or on a wall or something. It's just so authentically old. Here's that snipe in the upper left-hand corner, which again, the owner chose to leave on. And I just really think it could have said, tickets on sale here. Even the roughness of the paper in the white areas, like this lettering, just feels so very old. When this poster said All-Star 6-Group Lineup, it was no marketing hype or exaggeration. 5 of these groups got into the national top 10 in England, and half of them reached the #1 position. Wow. And Rory Storm and the Hurricanes was the only one who didn't. Yep, Rory never charted anything, but of course his band was perhaps the first big rock band in Liverpool, and that's the group that the Beatles eventually caught and surpassed. So still a lot of respect for the Hurricanes, but they're the ones that never charted. And don't think, by the way, that wasn't awkward when Ringo ran into his old band backstage at an event like this. But you do have Jerry and the Pacemakers on here. Boy, they had a huge year the next year. In 1963, 3 number ones, including How Do You Do It and I Like It. The 4Js, well, they would turn into the Foremost the next year in 1963, be managed by Brian Epstein, produced by George Martin, and hit the top 10 with a cover of Lennon-McCartney's Hello Little Girl. Billy Kramer with the Coasters. Yeah, that sounds kind of like a, premature. And indeed, Epstein took over management of Kramer, added J, just because of the sound of it, that's not really his middle initial, and at John Lennon's suggestion, moved out the Coasters and brought in the Dakotas. And over the next 2 years, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas enjoyed 4 top 10 hits written by Lennon and McCartney. Wow. Plus the number 1 not written by them, Little Children. And then the last band listed, not least, you got the Mersey Beats on there. Now Brian Epstein almost managed them but passed on it, but they still went into the top 5 in 1964 with one of their singles. And then getting down below the artists there and the information at the bottom, tickets £5, which by the way in 1962 was about $3.80. Licensed bars until 12:15 a.m. Well, obviously they wanted to cut the booze off about 45 minutes before the event ended. And then, getting people to and from the show was very important in a situation like this. It attracted a lot of teenagers and a lot of drinking young adults, and the Tower Ballroom was somewhat out of the way, as I had said, the seaside resort, and the darn place could hold 5,000 people, so if you're the promoter, you want to get a lot of bodies over there and make it very easy. So Sam Leach arranged for what he calls on here late transport, all areas, Liverpool, abbreviated L-Pool, and Whirl. Whirl was the borough in which New Brighton was located. Coaches leave St. John's Lane and Lime Street, 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. St. John's Lane, by the way, was in the Liverpool city centre, and Lime Street, if you know your music, yep, it's mentioned in Maggie May, an old sea shanty which the Beatles covered on their Let It Be album. It's kind of interesting, that L-Pool abbreviation right there. Gosh, as Beatle collectors and fans, we just kill to have the word Liverpool on our original Beatles concert posters, but precious few have the word on there. It just simply was not necessary. Now, the previously mentioned Kaiserkeller poster from 1960 does, but that's because it was overseas. But whether it's Elvis from Memphis or Louis Armstrong from New Orleans or the Grateful Dead in San Francisco, you just really covet that line if there's any way to possibly get it on there, and we'll have to settle for 5 of the letters out of Liverpool with the local slang abbreviation, just the L apostrophe pool. And then the last 2 lines on here are linked to that 5 quid box with those 2 dots leading into Get Your Tickets From. 7 locations are given, including NEMS, which of course was Brian Epstein's North End music stores. Okay, so last and least, I said I was going to show you a couple more bootlegs of this poster. Yeah, first of all, there's this highly unusual metal sign. I've actually been pitched on it as being an original, but sorry, it even says 1990 in the margin. And finally, great for contrast if nothing else, this silly thing, probably made by Tribune Showprint in Indiana, something like 40 or 50 years after the show. Definitely had to finish with the real thing here in my hands. Beatles and Operation Big Beat 5, what a time it must have been for the lucky few. Thanks a lot for dropping by, and we'll see you again for something soon. Bye-bye.